Hello, my creative friends. This is Heather North from heatherscreativeblessings.com, here with the rainbow Christmas card I promised you on Tuesday. I'm using the same stencil that I used on that blue card I made, and both of these cards were inspired by a very trendy holiday 2.0. It's an online class that starts today. Check out the description below for more information on that class. I'm starting out with some distressed watercolor paper from Tim Holtz and the Cursive Mary stencil from Memory Box. I'm just taking some tumbled glass, it's a light blue ink, distress ink, and I just lay down a little line of color on a diagonal in the center of this piece, and now I'm coming in with some evergreen bough. There's temporary adhesive on the back of the stencil to get it to stick to my cardstock without peeling up the paper once I lift it up. But this is a very delicate stencil, so what I'm doing is I'm just pouncing that distress tool and lightly twisting it to lay down the color. It's okay if it doesn't have a very smooth look to it. In the end it will when we add just a little bit of liquid. So here I'm adding my reds in the corner. I've got festive berries and fired brick. Then I'm going to add a little bit of green with mowed lawn and finish up with some peacock feathers to add a little blue-green. As you can see, I'm pulling the peacock feathers up into the other colors just so that they'll blend together a little bit better. Here is where the magic happens. I'm going to take the Sparkle Sheer Shimmer Spritz from Imagine Crafts in Sukaneku, and then I just sprayed it a few times onto my paper, and now I unscrewed the lid and I'm just using that stick that's in there to dab little dots of that shimmer spritz onto my paper. And what this does is it moves the color around a little bit, and when I take a paper towel and lift up that wetness, I'll also be lifting up some of the color, so I get these white dots and spots that kind of remind me of snow or rain and just give it a nice little watercolor look. The stencil comes off easily with that temporary adhesive. Now I'm going to work on my sentiment. It comes from Christmas Sparkle from Clearly Besotted Stamps. It has two different fonts. So that's a very hot trend right now in paper crafting, and one that I particularly like. I use my embossing buddy on the black cardstock just to remove any static, and now I'm inking it up with Versamark ink. It's a clear ink. And I'm sorry this is off camera, but I just sprinkled some white embossing powder. It's from Stampin' Up, and then tapped off the excess embossing powder. I'm using my heat tool just to melt that embossing powder until it becomes shiny. Now to even up my sentiment, this is a great tip if you don't stamp it straight. I'm just lining up the bottom of my sentiment with the clear guide on my cutter, and then I'll turn it a quarter of a turn and make a cut, and then a quarter of a turn again, this time lining up the top of my sentiment with that clear guide, make another cut, and then trim off the final side if you want all four sides to be even. It's just a little bit off, but this is a nice way to get straight lines. So here, this is how I make my banners. I cut down the center a little bit, and then from the top and bottom, I cut down to that center point. And it makes a perfect banner flag every time. All that's left is putting this card together. So I'm going to use some Tombow Mono multi-glue and adhere it to my watercolor paper. The watercolor paper has some texture, so I find using glue or a very strong adhesive works well in this type of situation. And then I'm just going to use some sharp scissors and trim off the banner that's hanging over the edge. The nice thing about this glue too is if you notice, like I did, that the piece is not quite adhered down, you can add just a little more to get it to stick. I'm going to mount it on a piece of black cardstock that's 1/8 of an inch larger. I think I forgot to mention I cut down the watercolor piece to 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and then this mat is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 inches. I just have a standard card base here, so it's 4¼ by 11, folded in half at 5½. And I will center up my panel onto my card base, and my card is done. I'm one of those people that likes to add just a little something to the inside of my cards to pull in from the outside. So what I did was I took that strip I cut off, 1/4 inch, and I just adhered it to the inside panel of my card. Now that you've seen both cards, I'd love to know which was your favorite, the blue card I made on Tuesday or the rainbow card I made today. If you like either one of them, I'd really appreciate you liking this video and subscribing to my channel. And be sure to check out A Very Trendy Holiday 2.0. Class starts today. Bye!